Welcome to Chapter 1 of Business Finance. This is Jody Trana. I just wanted to point a couple of things out. Within your MyLab course, there is a financial calculator. So you can access a financial calculator through MyLab. You also can download the app on your device and have a financial calculator that you can take with you into class. We'll have to talk more about tests because you can't use your phone during a test, but this will give you what you need to get you started. The second thing I wanted to mention is the best way to get a hold of me to ask me a question specifically on homework. When you're in MyLab and working, you can click on Question Help and then Ask My Instructor. This will email me the exact problem that you're working on and let me know where you are stuck. Include a message to let me know what you're confused about so that I can give you a really good answer. I will always respond to emails, but it may not be super quick. So if you would like immediate help, you might count on doing your homework during tutoring hours because that'll give you very immediate feedback. So here we are in Business Finance in our very first chapter, Chapter 1, Introduction. We're in the first major section of the course where we will be learning about financial statement analysis and how to determine whether a company is doing well or not. If there is one thing that you remember from this course 2 years from now, it's the answer to this question. What is the primary goal of corporate business? What is corporate business in the business of doing? To maximize shareholder wealth. As business finance professionals, to maximize shareholder wealth. As business finance professionals, we need to keep this goal in the forefront of all of our decision making. This isn't the only reason that corporate business is in business, but it is the primary goal. We want to maximize the wealth for each one of our shareholders. Those are owners in the company, and they require a great return on their investment. The primary purpose of Chapter 1 is to review the 5 principles of business finance. You may want to stop the movie here and read through these. You'll want to memorize these for our first test. Principle number 1 is money has a time value. This reminds me of a story that Jesus told about a man who was going to go on a journey. He entrusts his possessions to his servants and doles out a different amount of wealth to each of his 3 servants. He gives one 5 talents, he gives the second one 2 talents, and the third one he gives 1 talent. Do you remember what happens when he returns? The first 2 servants were really excited because they had invested the money in different ways and were able to show the master that they had returned the money. The third servant was afraid or didn't know what to do, and instead of investing the money, he buried the money. The master was very upset. He at the time said you could have at least earned a simple interest on this. I really like the reminder of this story in that $1 today is worth way more than the promise of $1 in the future. We have the ability to invest that money to earn interest, and so we need to understand that value, that there's a time value to money. Principle number 2, there is a risk-return trade-off. So if I were to give you $10,000, and let's say we were in Las Vegas, would you gamble that $10,000 to try to win a great deal of money, or would you put that money in the bank? The answer to that probably reveals your ability or your interest in accepting risk, and there's no right or wrong answer. But when you are a higher risk taker, you expect higher returns. If you are just going to put the money in the bank, you are willing to accept a smaller return. That's what principle 2 is about. The third principle is cash flows are the source of value. I hope that all of you remember that profits are not cash. Profit is a mathematical calculation taking sales that have been recorded, not necessarily cash received, but sales recorded, and subtracting expenses recorded. Again, not exactly cash paid out. So profit is something that we track, and it's a very important number. But cash flows are the thing that bring value. The graph that I have here just shows the amazing journey that Amazon has been on. It took more than 14 years of profits up and down for Amazon to finally fall into a track record of good profits. And why were they able to do this? They lost money for years and years and years. The only reason is cash. Amazon was able to raise cash and to float cash as a company, and that kept them going. So cash is a very powerful, powerful thing. Principle number 4 is market prices reflect information. When there's a release of good news about a company, stock prices go up. When there's bad news, stock prices go down. You can see this graph shows Netflix's stock prices and their history of ups and downs. And there's 4 major events here that you can see have dramatically affected their stock prices. The biggest one was in July 2011. It's called here the Quickster controversy, but Netflix planned a brand new process. They were going to spin off their entire DVD rental business and did not tell anybody. They just did it. And their stock prices just plummeted. They had lost maybe 30% of their customers because people were really angry. They have rebounded, as you can see, and they're doing quite well. Principle number 5 is individuals respond to incentives. This principle relates to what we call the principal-agency relationship. Remember that the goal of corporate business is to what? Maximize shareholder wealth. But what happens when that goal runs contrary to the incentives that corporate decision makers receive? For example, at WorldCom, an executive loaned himself $400 million, that's a pretty penny, at only 2% interest, which really should have been recorded as compensation. That is not a loan. But this executive, he manipulated the system contrary to the goal of corporate business and laws, I should mention, to do something that just benefited himself. It did not benefit his shareholders or the corporation. And then we have Enron. Here's an example where executives manipulated the accounting systems to continue showing profits that were unrealistic. This inflated stock prices, again, to an unrealistic level. And when they could see that the crash was coming, they sold their own stocks first, just before the company collapsed. They were agencies of the corporations, but they were acting for their own personal gain. Today we have stronger laws because of these kinds of things that are holding executives more accountable.